the battle for second place now. It's a three-way fight, DeFerrin, Tracy, and Michael Andretti.
And of course, one thing that happens there is that we see there's a dry line around this racetrack, or a drying line. You go put those slicks on, though, and you have to pass a slower car or get by somebody or whatever, and you have to move on to that damp surface. That then creates quite a problem for you when you're on slick tires. So it's real critical when you make that decision to go.
Ever since I saw this a few minutes ago, when you were watching that report with Jack, there was a crew member taking the label off of a rain tire. Now, we've seen him go out on what we call sticker tires. Why would he be taking the label off?
I think that could be a little bit of nerves, and he just wants him to go out with nothing. There's no benefit from taking that sticker off of that tire. It'll quickly go away the minute you put some pressure on it, but he might have just been nervous and looking for something to do.
Boy, Paul Tracy is now, he begins to really try and work on DeFerrin. DeFerrin has been very effective about staying in this position now, and I think that's probably that offline situation.
You might see
Michael tries to the inside, just takes a look, wants to see what it's like offline.
Right. You might see Gilles there that he's slower in some session. He might be nursing those tires. He's a very smooth driver, and he might just be nursing them to see how long he can get them. Not take too many chances. They know the pit stop's going to come. They know they're going on to slicks.
You got a glimpse of Christian Fittipaldi's wing there for a second. He's 6.3 seconds ahead of this battle, Jack Crew.
Well, I'm going to get your answer for why that crew member was scraping the label off.
Oh,
what the concern is, Paul, is a lot of it is nervousness and stress down here, but also they said, look, we're going to be taking these tires out, these slick tires, and it's still going to have some wet patches. Even for the first 100 yards or the first half a lap, we want to make sure we can get as much rubber to the road as possible.
And I'll tell you what, take a look at this, the sophistication of this battle that is second, third, and fourth. Three different chassis, three different engines as they come up behind Hero and look for offline position to get around him. That's going to bottle things up a bit. Well, Hero can become a key factor here now. There he goes offline. Good move. Because I think if he hadn't, Paul Tracy was going to take a shot anywhere he could find to get around DeFerrin. Jerry Punch?
Well, the die has been cast. Paul, Alex Zanardi, the rookie, the first one to come in, and they will go from the rain tires to the Firestone slicks. So we're not getting anywhere in these rain tires. The track is drying, so why not go ahead and put the slicks on? They will take one turn of front wing out, make an adjustment in the front of the car. They fuel it, and Zanardi spins the tires and is down and away.
Well, one way to get heat in him is Zanardi started fourth, has fallen back to 23rd spot. So they had little choice but to do this. Going to be an interesting first lap for him, though, isn't it? Just kind of head for that light gray area, wouldn't you say?
He's going to stay in that, and you're not going to be able to get him out of there very much. He's going to nurse it around, trying to get some heat up into those tires as quick as possible.
But if the rest of the track is drying, sooner or later, that will go to his advantage. Now, here's an interesting comparison. Hero moved to the right side. He's still on, of course, the rain tires and might be able to actually get around Zanardi. No, Zanardi now begins to pull away as again on that long stretch. No changes as, wait, we have a change as Greg Moore and Barbero got together. Wow.
This is going to throw all the strategy in the window, because if we have a full course yellow now, everybody's going to probably make a stop.
Well, you would presume that this will bring out a full course yellow. If it went out for Robbie Gordon's incident earlier, here's the way that one's set up.
Greg Moore coming down the inside in the blue car, locks it up, taps Ribeiro.
Got offline. There was no way at all he was going to slow down on that. But the good news is Ribeiro looks like he's fine. The tap shouldn't have done anything. And he's not all that deep in either. Greg Moore isn't. So maybe both those cars will come back into the fight. You're listening to Michael Andretti.
Which tires?
One thing interesting, too, right now, Zanardi, who changed tires on the slicks, is about 4 or 5 seconds difference.
course yellow, and the strategy plays again. I'll tell you what, this race is becoming even better than I expected with all of this going on. Al Unser Jr. makes his stop. He goes to the slicks. Michael Andretti is due in. So is Christian Fittipaldi, the leader. Scott Pruitt is also in. Bobby Rahal is in.
I'm coming in.
There's Michael. Now we're going to...
Dry tires.
We'll listen to Michael as he goes all the way into his stop. And see if there's any other information that goes back and forth on that stop. Moreno is out. Moselle is out. Pruitt is away. Fangio comes in. So does P.J. Jones. Jack Arute.
We'll keep listening to Michael Andretti as we watch Christian Fittipaldi's pit stop. Now remember, he cleaned off his visor. Slick tires for both Newman Haas teammates. A change in the wing. Let's check in with Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Gilles de Ferran comes in for a change of 4 tires. They give him a cloth to wipe his windscreen. He's complaining he could not see the slicks that are going on de Ferran's Pennzoil car. Alex Herring puts the left front, makes a wing change. Let's go back to Jack Arute.
Well, now the concern, Jerry Punch, will be, was this sufficient time for Newman Haas to be able to make this a 2-stop race? Scott Pruitt also in.
As de Ferran loses it on those slicks and doesn't touch anything. Michael gets around. So does Gugelmin.
That's the big concern down here on pit road. Michael Andretti tried to light the tires up to put some heat in him as he pulled away, and he just had wheel spin and no smoke. It's very wet down here, and this could be the more dangerous place to be at this point in time.
Well, de Ferran got it restarted. You see that rather narrow, dry path.
That's a very narrow, and of course he came out trying to get some heat in them and just looped them around. Not only were they cold, but probably it got a little bit in the water. Oh, he just spun it around. He was lucky there. And Michael, that's him on the black car on the inside. Very good maneuvering there.
Bright yellow car down there at the bottom of the screen. Michael in the black car right behind him.
Yeah, he just got a little bit on the damp part. Tires were cold, looped it around.
Got a spin in the same place yesterday. Full course caution, of course. And by the way, the reason for the full course caution, as we take one more look at de Ferran's situation, was the incident involving, that's Jim Hall, the car owner, involving Greg Moore and Andre Ribeiro, and they have both made it back into the pit, so they should be able to continue. This is why the full course caution is out there, and there is more stopped in the pits. Might be longer than we expected. We'll be back. Back at Belle Isle in Detroit for the Indy cars, riding on a very wet machine belonging to Andre Ribeiro, was involved in that incident. Here's the way the top 6 line up, with Christian Fittipaldi, who has led much of the race. Michael Andretti has moved up to the front. Paul Tracy's been trying to get around Michael for some time now. De Ferran, with his spin, dropped back into 4th place, and Al Unser Jr. sits in 5th. Bobby Rahal in 6th place. Those are the cars that are on the lead lap. We have had an interesting day thus far. It is drying on the track. That is changing the strategy and having an interesting effect on how they will gauge their pit stops. Right, Jack Arute?
Yeah, let's update you on Christian Fittipaldi. We've been telling you the question mark remained whether he was going to be able to make this a 2-stop race. Even with the telemetry that's only reading back to the crew, they feel they can go the distance. We've moved down to Greg Moore's pit. He was involved in that shunt, took the carbon fiber right off the rear part of the wing. They replaced the wing, but far more substantial damage towards the nose of the car, where they're going to have to change a lot of the front-end suspension parts. This is going to be a long stay on pit road for one of the Rookie of the Year contenders.
Well, when we went through the leaders there, under yellow, full course yellow, there was one change, and that was that Michael Andretti into 2nd place.
That's right. He had obviously had a better stop and got by Paul Tracy in the pits. He was very close, of course, behind him, but obviously that pit work.
Tracking others under this full course yellow, P.J. Jones started 25th and is now in 11th place as we look back from Stefan Johansson's car. Full course caution. They're trying to get that barricade back in position. You know, a race like this has massive requirements of volunteer help. I think that's because you really couldn't pay them enough to do the job they do. The course marshals, the paddock marshals, all of the safety crews that are helping here today and helping make this a safe race. Bobby Rahal pointing ahead there. Yes, he wants Hero out of the way.
I guess so. Maybe he knew that onboard camera was there and on him. He's pointing to maybe to tell Hero, but I think we're going to see that they readjust the order anyway before we go back to green, don't they?
Well, that's exactly what they suggest they do, and they're trying a couple of new rules here with the yellow. There, Bobby gets around, gets in contact with the leaders of the race. He should be the end of the leader lap. And IndyCar's taken a look at some of the rules in the running the race on how they can make it better for the race fan. Drivers don't always feel that it's better. Al Unser Jr. last week felt that he lost the race to Michael Andretti in Milwaukee because of the new rules under the yellow. But on the other hand, he did say, hey, if it's better for the fan, let's go with it.
Well, that's right. And having been a racer before, I've always felt that 9 times out of 10, when you're leading, you're always upset that you get some of that taken away when the yellow comes out. But really, it's mostly in second place. If you added up all the times that it helped you, I think it's a lot less than the times that it hurt you.
Look out there on the right front of Jimmy Vasser's car. He has not pitted, and he is still on the rain tire. Why?
Well, I would imagine because he's so far back. This is just my guess. He's so far back in there, and he hasn't been running strong all weekend, that their strategy is going to be, we're not going to go with speed here. What we're going to do is try to get to the distance and only make one pit stop.
He fell way, way back and comes up to try to get on with the lead lap. He's not going to do it. At least the electronic scoring not showing that at this moment, Jack Arute. Jack?
Well, this is the brain trust right here for Patrick Racing, Pat Patrick and Jim McGee. Gentlemen, you didn't like the rain. We knew it up front. Do you like the sun? Do you like the slicks? What are Pruitt's chances now?
Well, we're so far behind now. I don't know what we're going to do, but now that we have the dries on and the tire, as you know, works extremely well. The car is performing excellently, so we're ready to go racing now. It's our kind of race.
Jim, what about the setup? You softened things up because of the rain. Are you concerned about that at all?
No, we talked about that. We didn't go too far that way, so we're in good shape.
Jack, you know better than to ask a question like that.
All right, now they are not back to green. These are the cars trying to catch up to the pack so that they can line the cars up correctly for the restart. We'll be back with the green right after this.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? On a street car, shock absorbers are used primarily to control the ride across the bumps. But with an Indy car, it's much more complicated than that. IndyCar shock absorber technology has now progressed to the point to where they've actually separated high and low speed shock absorber movements. But what do we mean by a high speed shock absorber movement? Well, that would be if this tire hits a sharp bump on the racetrack. A low speed movement would be as a driver turns from left to right, hits the brakes, or accelerates. Now that is independently adjustable on a canister that comes off of the shock absorber, the black knob being high speed, that's for the bumps, and the silver knob being for low speed. One click to the left or the right makes a big difference to how this car will feel to the driver. In the future, it's not going to be a separate shock absorber and canister. It's all going to be encompassed in one unit. This development piece, although it cost a full $3,000, the teams feel this will be money well spent.
Well, we should be ready to go back to green flag racing very shortly here on Belle Isle in Detroit in the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix. Christian Fittipaldi giving that lead car quite a bit of shake, trying to get those tires as warm as they can before we go back. They do have the order lined up as they suggested they would, still making some adjustments. There you see one of them being made back at the back of the field with Greg Moore, but they're trying to get the entire field in race order. And there's been some interesting moves back down in the order, Danny.
Well, there have, and I've been a little bit confused. Of course, it's harder when you're sitting here in the booth trying to watch what's going on. But we move some guys around, and we think we've got 16 cars on the lead lap. And I believe that puts Scott Pruitt back up in the 7th spot.